It was a quiet afternoon in downtown Fairfield, Pennsylvania. Maya Williams, an FBI special agent, was heading home after a long day of work. She'd been deep undercover for weeks and was eager for some rest. But today, something unusual was waiting for her. As she drove down Main Street, Maya noticed a police car tailing her. She hadn't broken any laws, so she kept driving, not thinking much of it. Then the flashing red and blue lights came on, followed by the loud siren. Confused, Maya pulled over to the side of the road. She rolled down her window, and two officers approached. One was Officer Bobby Fishman, who stayed behind checking her registration. The other, Officer Frank Melton, came to her driver's side. "License and registration," Officer Melton said in a rough tone. Maya, who was always organized, handed over her documents, but something felt off. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. Melton glanced at her documents without answering. Instead, he took a step back and started talking to his partner in a low voice. Maya couldn't hear them, but their expressions made her uneasy. After a moment, Officer Fishman walked up to her window, his face serious. "Step out of the vehicle, ma'am," he said. Maya's heart sank, but she complied. As she stepped out, Fishman gave her a smirk and looked her over with unsettling interest. "We've got reports of a vehicle like yours involved in suspicious activity," he said, though he didn't go into details. Maya stayed calm. She knew her rights. She noticed they didn't recognize her as an FBI agent. Part of her wanted to see how far they'd push this. Her badge was tucked safely in her pocket, and she wasn't ready to reveal it just yet. But as Officer Fishman began searching her car without permission, Maya's patience was wearing thin. This wasn't about safety. It was about control. Fishman rummaged through her car, her work bag, a few files, an empty coffee cup. He found nothing, but he didn't seem to care. He looked up at her with a cocky grin. "What's your business round here, Miss Williams?" Officer Melton sneered, crossing his arms. "You don't look like you belong in this part of town." Maya raised an eyebrow. "I work here. Is there a reason for this stop?" Melton didn't respond. Instead, he gave Fishman a nod. Fishman stepped closer to Maya, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Just routine," he said. "We have to be extra careful with people like you around here." Maya's jaw tightened, but she didn't show it. "I know my rights," she said firmly. "If I've broken a law, I'd like to know what it is." Fishman chuckled. "You people always make things so difficult." It was clear now. This wasn't about the car or the stop. It was about who they thought she was. She glanced around. A few people had gathered on the sidewalk to watch. The officers saw the crowd too, and for a moment, hesitation flickered in Melton's face. "Cooperate fully," Melton snapped, his voice rising. "Any resistance could lead to consequences." That was enough. Maya took a slow breath and reached into her jacket pocket. She pulled out her badge and held it up. "FBI Special Agent Maya Williams," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Now, I suggest you stop this search and explain why you pulled me over without cause." Both officers froze. Their faces turned pale as they read the words, FBI Special Agent. Fishman took a step back, his confidence slipping. I didn't realize," Melton stammered, clearly rattled. Maya took a step closer, her eyes hardening. "Didn't realize what? That you were harassing a federal agent? That you stopped me based on my appearance alone?" Fishman shifted uncomfortably, avoiding her gaze. "It was a misunderstanding," he muttered. Maya raised an eyebrow. "A misunderstanding?" she repeated, her tone skeptical. "Or was it something more?" The crowd on the sidewalk had grown, and some people were recording. Maya could see the officers squirming, their earlier confidence gone. This was her moment. "I'll be reporting this incident," she said, her voice carrying weight. "Expect a formal investigation into your conduct?" Melton tried to recover, but his words were strained. "There's no need for that, ma'am," he said quickly. "We'll let you go." Maya didn't move. She wanted them to feel the full impact of their actions. She stood her ground and met their eyes, making sure they understood this wouldn't be swept under the rug. "Apologize," she said quietly. The officers hesitated, but the murmurs of the crowd made it clear they had no choice. Finally, Melton took a step forward, his face flushed. "We're sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am," he muttered. Maya nodded, but she wasn't done yet. "And don't think for a second this won't reach your department. You'll be hearing from me again?" With that, she turned and walked back to her car, leaving the two officers standing in awkward silence as the crowd whispered around them. The next day at the FBI office, Maya filed an official report. She knew this wasn't just about her, it was for everyone who had faced unfair treatment from people in power. Her supervisor, Agent Delgado, took the report seriously and promised swift action. Within a week, an internal investigation into Officers Melton and Fishman was underway. They were called in for questioning, and soon the whole department knew about what had happened. Maya's position added weight to the case, and the department could no longer ignore the officers' behavior. Chief of Police Charles Porter, a respected figure in the town, met with Maya personally. He apologized for the incident and assured her that the department was committed to making things right. "I believe in second chances," Maya said, "but only if real changes are made." The chief promised that Melton and Fishman would be disciplined and retrained, and he invited Maya to oversee a new program on fair treatment and racial bias for the department. She agreed. This was her chance to make sure her experience would help others avoid the same mistreatment. Weeks later, Melton and Fishman were formally reprimanded and suspended without pay. They went through intense training, designed to confront their biases and correct their behavior. When they returned to the force, they were humbled, and though they wouldn't admit it, Maya's strength had left a mark on them. Fairfield's police department slowly began to change. As word spread, the community became more aware and more willing to hold law enforcement accountable. Maya continued her work, knowing that her small victory had brought real change. As she drove through Fairfield's quiet streets, Maya knew she'd stood up for herself and for everyone who believed in a fair and just world. And that's the end of the story. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories.